nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
Hello and welcome to the Managing Madrid podcast. I'm your host, Kiyan Sabani, joined tonight by Sid Harthram Sundar. We're recording this about 15 minutes or so after Real Madrid's 2-0 win over Villarreal, which unfortunately was just had a horrible ending. And we sit here coming to this podcast thinking we're just going to talk about an uninspiring win, but an important win. Just to summarize it briefly, but there's a whole new layer to this because in the last second of the game, last minute of the game, just before the final whistle, Dani Carvajal suffered a horrible injury. His leg went in a direction I didn't even know was possible. I'm sure you guys have seen it. Made me sick to my stomach, and he was stretched off in tears in a horrible situation. And we we'll probably at some point get into the ramifications of that and emergency signings and how to figure that part out and next man up and kind of coping with it, and also like him having a terrific second half. But all that kind of comes secondary to just like the first thing I want to say is we wish you the best of recoveries, Danny. Like that's horrible. I think we're all really heartbroken that happened to you. And that, I mean, as soon as I heard it, said him shrieking in pain and screaming, I thought that's not a normal scream, especially from him, who is an absolute warrior gladiator. He'd probably have to have something really traumatically bad happen to his body for him to actually show visible pain. Just a horrible situation, Sid.
Yeah. To be honest, at first, the optimist in me tried rationalizing because when I saw the contact, I'm like, okay, they just bang knees. And even though he's screaming, I'm like, okay, maybe you bang knees at like that funny bone part of your knee where it hurts so much, but it's not actually injuring you. And then someone tweeted me that picture in the response when I tweeted about it, and they showed the picture, and the picture cleared it up. I think he's out for the season. I would be surprised if he's not. If we're really lucky, he got like some higher grade MCL sprain or something. I don't know, PCL sprain, but looks like he's out for the season. So yeah, horrible news. And the number of knee injuries we have is ridiculous. For the so-called best club in the world, it's ridiculous. It's all knee injuries, ACLs. This is probably another ACL. So almost our entire Champions League winning like backline is like Furlan's the only one who has not had his ACL tear. Hi.
said that Arlo came and just interrupted your speech with just a little wave. So that's the context. If you're not watching the video right now, that's why Sid interrupted his speech to say hi to my son Arlo, which is good because he lightened the mood a little bit. He brought some lightness to the podcast after starting a very heavy subject. But yeah, continue.
He did, and I got this little rice pudding here so I can have some sugar in the system, feel better about this Carvajal injury. Normally don't, but I need it right now.
I'm surprised he did not comment on the fact that you're recording this on a different planet on Mars. Look, we're gonna hear from Carlo soon in the post game press conference. I don't think we're gonna hear anything like surprising. I just assume that it's just a horrible situation, and he's probably out for the year is my guess, judging by what happened and how that happened. It was a horrible end to the game. And from there, I would say just like if it's an ACL thing, I've lost track of how many ACL injuries we've had. They all seem to happen to the defensive line, whether it was Militao, Alaba, Courtois, Jean Martinez before the season started.
Yeah, for sure. So we got to talk about the performance improvements. We got to talk about Carvajal's injury, the replacements. Those are the main ones. But Yeah, the ACL tears are ridiculous. And I guess do you want to start with the game? Do you want to talk about the game first and then end on the Carvajal stuff? I mean, we mourned him, but
Well, I just want to like before we get off the Carvajal stuff completely, I will just say that after a kind of a slow start to the game, he actually had some really important defensive moments in the second half. And a couple where he actually had to come all the way over to the left side. Sorry, I'm laughing because my 4-year-old is absolutely just doing some hilarious shit in the background. Okay, he's gone now.
he's just trying to cheer you up.
Yeah, he's here for comedic relief. You gotta, God bless him. He came over all the way to the left side or like central zones to win the ball that were actually like really important defensive interventions. And I actually thought like, it was a bit of a slow start to the game, but he showed why he's so important, in that second half. And like, look, it sucks, man. It really, really sucks. I don't know, man. He's just been amazing the last 2-3 years for Real Madrid. He's had an incredible year, and
Yeah,
I just don't like it when things like this end. And I'm just hoping that this is not the end. I don't think this is the end. I'm being pretty dramatic with that, but certainly like it's not ideal.
he's 32 and a fullback. I understand where you're coming from. It's like fullbacks, like he has a lot of mileage. And what worried me, I guess, like he had a great performance. Let's just talk about his performance today. Let's get into him then.
Yeah.
So I guess like what worried me today, though, even before the ACL, and that's when the ACL happened, I'm like, you guys just need to update your goddamn approach, which is like they're asking him to play like 2017 Carvajal. I feel like last season, Fede really supported him on the right. And we had moments when if he went high and wide, Fede would tuck. Today, we kind of had both of them attacking, and Carvajal had to be really high and wide, hold that width in order to make the team work. Like they wanted Mendy a little high and wide at times too. I think the idea was just spread out the back line so that we can access the midfielders. And I was worried, man, just seeing like before we scored, Villarreal were getting behind Carvajal in transition a couple times before we scored. And then once we scored, Carvajal seemed to like prioritize defense. He started doing these crazy sprints. He did a crazy sprint from the right back zone all the way into midfield once to stop a transition attack. And then, anytime we lost the ball, he just started sprinting back because he realized we have the lead. And he wasn't attacking maybe as vigorously. He still positioned himself high, but he's 32 and like just came off like a renaissance season. But the year before last season was really bad from him. Physically, he's not like in the prime of his career, even if gluten-free did it for a season. Like it's great, but like gluten-free doesn't mean a 32-year-old becomes 26, 27. And so just before the injury, I was worried, Kian. I'm like, okay, we're doing this today. There's no way you can ask him to do it all season. Like what he did today was way too intense, in my opinion. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, look, you want your players to be working hard. I think maybe the broader discussion is not about like, did he work too hard? It's like, is the system unforgiving and requiring of people to overexert themselves? And the reality is that Real Madrid, in a team that is filled with tactical chaos, we've needed players like this. Right now, it's Bellingham as well. Bellingham is everywhere, and I'm not sure he needs to be everywhere. He needs to be everywhere because the system would fall apart without him being everywhere. But then the question goes all the way back to should the system be so over reliant on him defending so much, especially now that Camavinga's back? You can afford just more bodies to help cover ground defensively. In years past, it's also been Modric. I mean, Modric had to basically be in 10 positions at once during the three-peat, and it was insane how much ground he covered. So I don't know, like him like playing as hard as he did. Again, this is far beyond my expertise of like what can cause his leg to go in that direction, and if he was running too much. And and I would say like you sub him off, but I'm like you kept him on the field for that long, and you actually kind of needed him, to be quite honest with you. So
yeah, he was key for sure. Like that one intervention he made, like at center back, running across the defense, was ridiculous. And others for sure. Also, I know we've seen Modric at right back, but I just want to add, today we saw Fede at center back in transition a couple times, if you remember, and that was new to me too. I'm just like there was a moment when I think Tchouaméni was still getting back, and it was Fede and Rudiger were the first two back. It's getting crazy out here for sure. And the only thing I'd say to what your point is, I don't like, we can debate what caused it, but just like Rodri when he tore his ACL, usually those things don't happen when you're in full control of your body and mind. And like as a trained athlete, these guys are pretty good. And so when you only lose control of your body and your mind muscle connection due to fatigue, like there's just no two ways about it. I don't think there's any way to convince me that this was like bad luck. Just like Rodri. And that's why I always, almost every podcast now, I'm bringing up Fede and Rudiger's minutes. You know, I worry. I worry for them. I worried for Jude. It is worrying for sure. And it's all made worse by the fact that our attackers are, especially Mbappe, is just one of the worst defenders ever. That's the only reason it's a convo, because of how much pressure it's putting on the other guys. But yeah, I mean, it was a great game from Carvajal, though. Like, if it was one of his last great games in a Real Madrid shirt, he played very well defensively. ACL means another 18 months. We see what happens with Alaba, who's a little older. Courtois, goalie, not as taxing a position. Militao, center back, young in his prime. 32-year-old ACL, just a very different story. So, you know, very decent chance that we don't see Carvajal in his prime again at this club, unfortunately.
I mean, you just hope for, like, maybe, I honestly don't know the answer to that. It's obviously not looking great. You know, if he comes back at some point, you know, he's still young enough that he could be playing when he's 33, 34 and have a good closeout to his career. I don't know. It's too early to even talk about that part of it, I think. But the now, like, my mind is shifting from like, okay, Carvajal, speedy recovery, prayers up. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Now it's like Real Madrid in a position that their only right back is Lucas Vazquez, who is not naturally right back, but also obviously has filled in there over the years. If you talk about emergency signings, which is something that is possible under current La Liga rules, there are a few stipulations. The player has to be unemployed, so having no contract with the club, and there are some salary stipulations too, with regard, like, I think it's about 80% of it. He can't be making more than 80% of Carvajal's current salary, for example. And also the player has to be out 5 months. So assuming that Carvajal is out 5 months and over, you qualify for the ability to sign an emergency right back. Look, it's not like there is no one in this position right now that would really help you much. If like, basically Serge Aurier is like probably the best free agent right now that can play at right back, which, if you're like looking at that, I'd rather just like look at Castilla.
Serge Aurier would definitely not come to Real Madrid.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm saying, like, that's the level of right back you're looking at. So at that point, you might as well just look at Castilla, is my point.
Partly you wonder now, like, if the team is just like, you know, they've been, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no,
just like the right back situation, even going into the season, I just wasn't a fan, like, going into the last season, even though he went gluten-free. This season, going into it with such a limited fullback option, I really wanted, I think, and the way we're playing now, demanding the fullbacks attack, we need a more attacking, like, different fullbacks. And Carvalho's great. He's just, you can't ask him to be a prime toe-to-toe touchline fullback. And yeah, I mean, I feel like, knowing Perez, he's only going to address this next summer. I am really happy that we've made contact with Trent Alexander-Arnold, for what it's worth. I think he's the one we should get, not now, but I think he's the one, Kian. Like, I think, like, I know.
Wait, say it again.
Trent. Like,
oh yeah,
now.
I mean, but that's a ways away.
Yes,
not like
it is. Yeah. It is. I just mean, like, I think our main Carvalho replacement will be Trent. I think he will come in and cook and change the scope of how this team creates offense completely. I think we're going to see a lot of Trent passes all the way to Mbappe, Vinicius, and transition. So I expect Trent to be the right back guy. I don't know if it's 100% Liverpool are good, but I do know his contract is running down, and we do know that his agent, who's his brother, has met with Real Madrid. There have been talks. I don't know where they're going. I don't know if they're like Lenny Yoro, or I don't know if they're just exploratory talks, but that's a long-term one. Short-term, yeah, like, your guess is as good as mine. Castilla could be the move. I don't know if maybe we bring someone out of retirement like Barcelona did their goalie. I mean, fullbacks are different, though. You can't just bring them out of retirement. It's way too demanding a position. Yeah.
Well, so let table the TAA stuff because that's like a future conversation to me. I agree that he would be a great signing, but that's like something that not we won't discuss tonight. I don't think. Get ready for a lot of center back playing right back stuff this season. Militao playing right back. You're gonna see. You might see Tchouaméni, but I think you're going to see Militao playing right back. You might even see Alaba when he comes back, being forced to play there because we're running out of bodies.
Ferland Mendy at right back.
You might see Ferland Mendy at right back. It's something we've seen before. So just get ready for a lot of funky multi-positional players not playing where they're supposed to for the rest of the season. And that part of it is like the board also knew the risks that they were taking. The other alternative is like if you're looking for a stopgap is you might need to sign a center back just so that you can afford, if Militao is going to go to right back and you only have Rudiger and Jesus Vallejo, you actually might need a center back if there's no real viable options in the right back market.
Well, now we know Tchouaméni's like going to get game time the rest of the season. Everyone was talking about how Camavinga made him look bad today, and we'll get into all that. But looks like his minutes are sorted for the rest of the season. He's going to be playing in defense. Just looking at Vasquez real quick. So let's see. He got 31 90s in for us in 2017-18, which is quite a lot for a squad player. 28 18-19, 31 2020 21, 28 90s, 21 22, 20 90s last season. I definitely think he will. I have a feeling like Nacho last season, Vasquez will step up big time. I just get a feeling. I know he's old. Let's see. How old is he now? 33. I do think Vasquez, they're going to be like, we have Lucas Vasquez, and they're just going to look for someone who can kind of back up Lucas Vasquez. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, that's probably what's going to happen. Yeah.
I think he'll deliver. That's all I'm saying.
I have no issue with that Lucas Vasquez. I have more issue with like the dominoes of the fact that Vasquez now will be running to the ground, and then Rudiger will be running to the ground. Militao will be running. Everyone's just going to be running. The problem is like the remaining players then get run into the ground, and then it's a vicious cycle of you can't afford anybody rest, and that's the main problem. And unfortunately, a lot of this is happening to our defensive line, which was our thinnest position to begin with. Ancelotti just took the podium. He says, it seems like a fairly serious knee injury. The dressing room is sad and worried. It's something that happens a lot in the calendar, and it has happened to a very important player for us. So I think he just took the podium because that's all he said so far, I believe. So, yeah.
Yeah. I know you didn't want to talk about Trent, but there's one super chat you might want to take real quick.
Yeah, we're going to shift our attention to super chats now. And I'm going to let that actually dictate where the conversation goes tonight, whether it's game analysis or anything else. So let's get to that stuff now. Super Tramp says Carvajal heart. If this is his last appearance, it's such a shame. Looked really bad. And Pino making a useless challenge when the game is over. It's hard for me to sit here and blame Yeremy Pino, who probably feels horrible for this whole situation.
That's not on Pino. That was Carvajal's leg bending in a way it shouldn't have bent. Like he didn't. It was nothing to do with the contact. Like unlucky.
And Corgiotti says stay strong and hope for the best. Carvajal. Gio says speedy recovery to Carvajal this season. Gio also says notes. I think Carlo has told the DM to always maintain shape. Explains why Camavinga jogged instead of sprinted back at times.
So I guess do you want to just use that as a trigger to talk about Camavinga?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, so the shape, everyone was wondering how are we going to play, and I thought it would be like a 4-3-3 with Jude as a 10, but we got a 4-2-2-2 with like two attacking mids or interiors in Bellingham and Modric. Camavinga on the double pivot. He was so good, I thought. I don't know about like jogged instead of sprinted back at times. I think Carlo does want the double pivot in place at all times. So if Camavinga was too high, Modric and Fede would stay in the double pivot. Sometimes maybe Jude would come back to shield, even though he was higher up. But just defensively, I just feel like Camavinga covers a lot of ground. And so I think actually whatever Carlo tells the DM, regardless, like I thought the Fede Camavinga double pivot was even more mobile defensively than the one with Tchouaméni. Like Tchouaméni, I think is a great like 6 defensively. I think Camavinga is a great like 8. Like a 6 is always going to be somewhat stationary, cut off passing lanes, be the last man, track runners. But an 8 is like all action. Like they go press, they chase people down, and I think Camavinga was honestly great. I thought at points he sprinted back really well. He was just caught out a little higher, and what do you think? I thought it was very good defensively.
I had no issues with Kamavinga's tracking in this game. Now, like if you show me like sequences in film where I missed it, maybe I missed it and he was doing that, then I missed it and I'd have to look at it, what he's talking about here. I mean, he had good coverage on actually both sides today, and block shots at the top of the box, turns under pressure. I also thought him and Bellingham functioned well too, in the sense that when Kamavinga would win the ball deep and he turned around, Bellingham was also right there in a vertical channel just ahead of him, and it just felt fluid, that connection. Now, I said this at the top of the show, and it was mostly dominated by Carvajal conversation, didn't really explore it too deeply. I don't think this was a great Real Madrid performance. It lacked a lot for me still, with regards to body language, with regards to just putting your foot on the opponent's throat, with creating chances. We didn't create that many, although I think Vinicius was the Vinicius was the standout to me for a variety of reasons, but he absolutely torched and extracted the soul of Kiko Femenia. And Femenia was probably lucky not to escape with, being sent off in that game. But Vinicius created a lot. But beyond Vinicius, I wasn't too inspired. Like I thought Mbappe was poor again. So I just think like this still needs to improve as a whole. Like the way it's functioning, it's still not where it needs to be. But it was an important 3 points. And if we're talking about Camavinga's place in it, I liked his position. The way this midfield also functioned, it was kind of interesting in that Matt and I did a deep dive for our members yesterday, I think it was, where we talked about the performance against Lille and how the roles were really, really weird in midfield. So today you had basically Camavinga and Fede double pivot with Bellingham and Modric just ahead of them in this narrow box midfield. And behind the ball, that's how it functioned. It was basically a 4-2-2-2. And I think that it actually hurt our press a little bit, because when we tried to press high, Villarreal always had the crossfield switch open because we were playing so narrow. So it was easy to break our press. Having said that, I actually like the pressing individually speaking, like the counter pressing from Modric and Bellingham was fantastic. Modric tonight, that was from 1 to 90. I mean, he didn't play the full 90, but from 1 to whatever minute he came off, the energy was great from him. I thought he looked really good. It's still like you'll see like individual things that are positive, but it's still as a collective doesn't feel like it's meshed together yet.
It hasn't, but I guess like it speaks to how bad our season has been that I was like, this was some of the most progress I thought we've seen in any individual game, because the midfield, what I thought really changed was anyone could come and receive, and like everyone was comfortable receiving in a variety of angles. Tchouaméni likes facing goal. Like he's not that comfortable turning under pressure. He's not a dribbler. He's like Cruz without like Cruz's like same awareness of how to escape a press with his passing, but he's very much like a more stationary profile like Cruz. And Camavinga, the way he could turn was crazy. But not only that, there were so many situations when Modric would come a little deeper, and I think Arda could do the same. I like the 4-2-2-2 because I think Arda can play in that Modric role. And I think it suits him better than a 4-3-3 right now with his skill set. But back to this, Modric drops, and Camavinga, we saw him in the right half space so many times. Like he started on the left side of the double pivot, but there were so many situations where he's in the right half space. If we lose the ball, his counter pressure is amazing, better than Tchouaméni, who again is a 6. He's not like this all action 8 who goes and hounds players up front. And that was amazing. And I love Camavinga on the right too. Like I thought when he was in the right half space ahead of Modric, they swapped really well. And Modric at 39, I mean, still so safe in the double pivot as long as he has like a Fede and the Jude and Camavinga running around him. Still very reliable. I can't believe it. We haven't seen anyone play midfield at this age, at this level ever. Like you could say that previous years, but maybe some players they'd bring up randomly. Certain great players have done it, but the level of athleticism you need. And I was just tweeting earlier, like Tom Brady played till 44, but he played quarterback. LeBron is playing now, and I love basketball, and I think LeBron is a great, probably one of the others at 39 who's doing it. But and you could say Cristiano, but Cristiano again a forward. Modric is doing it in midfield. I think it's much more physically taxing what he's doing than Cristiano's role. One, two, basketball you can take possessions.
I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah. And then basketball you can take possessions off. Like if you need 2-3 possessions where you take it easy, it's easier. Offensively, you can just take off in basketball. Go stand in the corner. Midfield's not like that. You have to be involved all the time. It's one of the most exhausting roles in sports, and for that reason, incredible from Modric. But and lastly, just addressing the super chat, I feel like when Camavinga jogged back, it's only energy management because Modric and Fede were already there. You can't, even as a young prime athlete, like you can't sprint every single possession all game. You have a limited number of sprints you can do. And I thought he made the right decisions on when to sprint back or not fast.
One more from Gio who says Mbappe needs to watch Vinny tape from last season from 21-22, Benzema and Vinny, early Benz and CR7, striker Henry. He dropped back, but there were times he dishes it out to Vinny and just stayed back and not make a play into the box to follow. So I don't. The last two games from Mbappe have been pretty poor. I think his most notable contribution today was the 1-2 he does in the first half, where he plays it out wide to Vinny on the left and then sprints and then pulls away from Parejo, who looks like a dinosaur trying to catch up to him. Vinny plays a great through ball in, and then I think the first touch from Mbappe is just a little heavier. He doesn't connect well with it, which means he had to overexert himself to reach it on the breakaway, and then he just couldn't get past the keeper with that touch. Apart from that, he did nothing. The game against Lille was horrible. Now, maybe you can excuse that one because that was his first game back and everybody was horrible apart from maybe Arda Güler, who had a nice cameo off the bench. There is a, I can't put my finger on it, but there's a bit of a body language meekness to him right now. He needs to be less meek and more demanding of the ball. He was barely involved in this game, barely noticed him. You just need more from him. You need more of him showing for the ball. You need more of his quick passing, his link up play. It seems like every time he gets the ball, he just seems to be interested in finding Vinny and kind of going just drifting around towards him. We need more of him just stepping up and taking on a more alpha role, in my opinion. It's beyond some of the tactical stuff for me. It's that he just doesn't look like he's, I don't know what it is. He doesn't look like he's just taking the game by the scruff of the neck. I know that's a very lame cliche statement to make, but he needs to take the game on more. There are certain players that need the game to come to them because they're doing too much. In Mbappe's case, I just need him to actually take on a more of a leadership role in attack. He's not at that level yet. And, good thing he's not going with France over the break.
Yeah, I personally, the cliches have been funny the last couple of games. And Lucas was like, not enough hunger and fight. I think it's tactics, and I think the players are getting a lot of heat for what needs to be coached, and maybe the coach is trying, but as far as I can tell, from what we saw today, it just continues proving for me that changes under Carlo don't happen tactically; they happen with lineup changes, unfortunately. There are some coaches, maybe they figure it out on the training ground, but this is a coach where the profiles really dictate what happens. And the not having, Mbappe is not a 9. We've known this. And I thought it would work because last season we won without a 9. But there is a component of our game, and I'm going to share my screen here in a second, but there's a component of the game that Rodrigo has, that Benzema had, that Henry had, that's missing from Mbappe's game. And I think it got really taken out of his game at PSG under Enrique, especially. I think Enrique this last season and then playing with Messi turned him into this focal point. But his numbers were best under Tuchel when he was playing with Neymar. That's when PSG were at their absolute best and most devastating. It's been years. And I felt like under Tuchel, he really was developing a good understanding of how to attack. That's kind of been removed from his game. I really do blame Luis Enrique's system. I don't think it really got the most out of him. And a lot of people will agree with that. But Anyways, today I thought actually, so the bright side is our midfield builds up well. And I actually thought the number of final third entries we have, and even some of the penalty box entries, like we got more in this game. It was like no Cruz, but like he was watching, and it was like magically we had a bit more of a grip on the game while he was watching it. It was the lineup change, not him watching. But now I'm going to share my screen and show you what I think goes wrong in the final third every single time. This is literally every possession. But Jamie Hamilton has talked about this. Too often Mbappe misses the beat when in dynamic, close proximity combination moments. Here, the first time Tabella for Vinny's on, but Mbappe's perception isn't tuned to Vinny's frequency. Mbappe receives with his head down. That's the problem for me. I think he receives with his head down, and he never knows when the 1-2's on. Sometimes he plays it, but he doesn't know what run to make. And, you know, this is like something that I thought Carlo would have down. So let me stop sharing there. I thought Carlo would solve this. And I think like what happens is when he's attacking the box and he plays the 1-2 with Vinny, he drops back because every time he uses his speed, there's 3 guys marking him. Bellingham is sometimes late there. There's no Joselu, which I think is a huge problem now, looking at like how Joselu like was good last year. I think even this year he would have been even more devastating next to Mbappe and Vinny. And I think that's a big loss because you need someone who essentially pins 2 defenders. Even if you're Mbappe and Vinny, you're not going to score 2-on-4. And we don't have a guy who occupies 2 center backs. Jude crashes and can, but and the situations I feel like they actually look good sometimes are either he rips through the middle of the defense with his speed, but you can't do that every time. You're not going to win at the highest level with speed alone. And I think it's when we have 4 guys crashing, like when Rodrigo was on the right, Bellingham crashing. Moments today, like there was that one moment when Mbappe made the run and opened a whole pass to Modric, which Vinny just kind of put past him. I think you need to time your box crashing. We don't have a guy who heads the ball or holds it up. So I think Carlo needs to go practice on the field. Like, okay, Mbappe, you get the ball from Vinny and you need to plan 2-3 situations where he doesn't look down and then take his time looking around. Because right now, every time he gets it, he's looking down at the ball, not with his head up. And I think that's the problem. And I think his first touch is good enough to fix that. I don't think his first touch is bad. A lot of people have said that. I think his intent.
His first touch is not bad, but it's off right now.
I think his intent is off. Yeah, it is. I just think the intent is what's also off. Like he doesn't have clarity in what he needs to do, and that needs to come from coaching. Thierry Henry, Karim Benzema, I think the super chat is actually really spot on because those two really mastered that part of the game. And you don't need to be fast. You don't even need to be that smart. You just need to be quick and decisive, which is what I think they had.
So I have a slightly different opinion to you on this. I think with Mbappe, it's him that needs to make adjustments personally and step his game up. I'm not saying that Carlo is devoid of blame at all. That's not what I'm saying. But Carlo has always been a coach that he's going to let players have the freedom in attack to come up with their own solutions. In the past, he's entrusted Benzema with that without giving him many tactical instructions apart from some on defense. But he always gave Benzema and Vinny the freedom in attack to connect. And I thought Benzema is and part of the reason I was optimistic, and I still am. Like, look, we're 11 games into like a 5-year process here, so I'm still optimistic about it. But one thing about Benzema that I like is that he's just so omnipresent as a player, right? He is so noticeable on the field. He does not shy at all. He's constantly demanding touches. He's constantly defending. He's constantly linking up play. He's constantly giving direction on the field. Like if he released the ball to Vinicius, if he released the ball to Rodrigo, he's immediately sprinting in a different direction, or he's giving instructions as he passes the ball. And I don't see that from Mbappe at all. So there's this idea of like he should go back, Mbappe should go and watch tape of like Benzema and Vinny from 2021, 2022. He's right. I think he should, to see what that connection was like. And I was optimistic about it because I think Mbappe has a lot of similar characteristics to Benzema. He's not as much of a 9 as Benzema, but he can play that role. We've seen him play, and we've seen his link-up ability. He's a very good passer. He hasn't been this season, but he is a good passer. Like if you zoom out and look at his career, what he doesn't have that Benzema had is the defense, obviously. But I think this is a lot on not only him, but him and Vinny together need to like literally like you almost need to lock them in a room and be like, we need to figure this out. I don't know. Like, there's only so much Carlo can do and say or instruct in this situation. I think Mbappe really needs to look at the mirror, be like, we need and realize how much more we need from him. We need him to get more on the ball. Like, if you had to go and look at the average touches of Benzema and Mbappe compared to like Mbappe this season, I'm sure you'd see a difference. Although that's an assumption. I had to look at it to see if that's true. But it just felt like Benzema was actually just more present. Like you just noticed him more. And Mbappe, I would say that generally speaking, you do, but lately, no. So that's something that really needs to improve.
Yeah, I'm checking the touches now, but I will say Henry is probably the comp for like winger and Benzema if you want. Like Henry, very good link up play,
Sure.
combination play. But I think like I guess like you don't have to blame Carlo, but I feel like you get paid to lock these guys in a room and show them the film during training, and I think that he could do that. Is all I'm saying. That's what practice is for,
Of course. Yeah, of course. There's no question. All right. So while you look that up, we'll take another super chat. Mr. Sushi says, I would have rather have lost than have these injuries. Yeah, it's a horrible situation, Mr. Sushi. Also says, any Castilla players who can possibly step up? So this is a great question. I actually was having conversations with Castilla Corner before we started, and my brother Real Madrid Fabrica, who is well known on Twitter, probably the top account on Real Madrid Castilla related stuff on Twitter, and it's not looking good. Like nothing great. And I actually will just read verbatim that the message that Real Madrid Fabrica sent me. He says, none of Castilla's current right backs, who are Lorenzo Aguado and David Jimenez, are first team material. The options I would, and then basically he just goes on to say that, and I don't want to read the whole thing actually because it's long, but the whole thing is basically anyone promising we have is at Real Madrid C or Juvenil A, which is U19. So we're talking about like very raw 17-year-olds, which under Carlo, forget about it. We'll see Kamavinga right back before we see any of those guys. That's for sure. So unfortunately, Mr. Sushi, we don't have a great answer for your question.
I have these stats up real quick. All right,
sure.
Let's touch this. Let's touch on this. What do you guys think of Trent's defensive work? It's not the best. It's like a little bit like Marcelo, except Marcelo would get caught out because he was so high up. Trent sometimes is just not the best one-on-one defender, in my opinion. We've seen Vinny torch him so many times. To be fair, that might be a very high bar. Who doesn't get torched by Vinny? But with that said, I think it's like Marcelo in the sense that it doesn't matter because he changes the scope of what you do on offense so much that like you make the other team react to you when you have Trent. Whereas like a traditional fullback, they react to the other team. So it's not the best in the world, but the other thing I'd say is he doesn't have to overlap to be effective, which is why I want Trent. He's kind of like a Cruz or a Fabregas, more like a Fabregas, where from your half, he creates chances if he wants. And there's almost very few players in history have ever had the creation range. He might have honestly the best creation range in history. Like as far as deep areas, the distances he can create from, number one, along with Cesc. So I'm not too worried. And we can station him deeper because he creates from deep. We don't have to make him overlap. Any thoughts on that, Kian?
Yeah, I have thoughts. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of pushback from, and I think this is more of like a hipster pushback than like a legitimate pushback of like, hey, stop underrating Trent's defense. He's very good. Stop this narrative. And I think they're wrong to push that narrative. I think Trent, maybe he's been so criticized defensively that it's possible maybe he's slightly underrated, but I watch him play. He's similar to Marcelo in that you heard some people say that about Marcelo sometimes, like in our mentions in the podcast as well. And they would point to examples of like Marcelo tracking in the Clásico, like later on in his career and making this strong challenge and look like Trent has those sequences as well. I think Trent's issue is that not that he obviously has pace that he can recover defensively, but it's his positioning more than anything else. that makes him liability. And I mean, like, even when he's in position, he loses his marker a lot. So that's where I would be concerned. And I think, look, I'm on board that Trent, I'm on board with the idea of Trent as our future right back, which may or may not be in the realms of reality or not, because he is a thoroughly, Liverpool guy. Like, he's one of them. I don't know if he would leave.
He hasn't renewed. It's just weird that he hasn't renewed.
Yeah, maybe he will, maybe he won't. I don't know. But anyways, he is such a generational attacking wing back that I don't know if fully people realize how powerful he is on offense. Like, he can do a lot of damage. His creation from that flank is insane. Having said that, I think, like, at some point, if you're putting all these pieces together who don't defend, whether it's Vinny, Mbappe, you're talking about Alphonso Davies next year potentially, and you're talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold, at some point, like, someone has to defend guys. That's my own that would be my concern overall. And maybe a case for someone who can play as more of a two-way wing back. But
yeah, I mean that David. Yeah, we don't get into Davies, but that's a variable one where, like, I feel like there are worlds where he works out. Like, Trent is a known quantity, but regardless, we need new wing backs. Do you want to do the next super chat? You want to go over the possession touches real quick?
Yeah, just do the possession. Might as well just do it now.
So yeah, this is a little surprising, I guess, but so Benzema. Actually, no, it's not. So Mbappe, for his career, averages about 50 touches since 2017-18. Per 90. Benzema, 49.3 from 2017-18 to his last season. So career average is similar. Vinny, 51.8, and actually a little 49 and 49.7 the last two seasons.
But I think so. But I think the number you want to look at is Mbappe's touches this year.
Yeah, no. So that's where I was getting to. Okay. So Mbappe is, like, all these years, pretty much from all of them, are 47, 48, 50. And then Mbappe this season's at 43.3.
There you go.
But here's the thing, like, attacking third this season, Mbappe has 29.6. Benzema averaged like 28 in the attacking third. Last two seasons, he was a little higher, but 2020-21, he was at 25.6. Vinny, attacking third, okay, a little higher, averages 34. But like, attacking penalty area, Mbappe has 12 touches per 90 this season. That is, like, higher than Ben's ever was. Ben's was at like 6.8. Vinny has never gone above 9. So what I think we're seeing is, like, and that at least ties into what I was saying, which is we're actually entering the final third in penalty box really well and often. As soon as we get there, Mbappe's brain just freezes. He doesn't know how to continue creating an advantage from the situation. I actually think the movement and everything have been great. He just gets confused. It's like, okay, how do we combine relationally? How do I, like, pass in relation to what you're going to do next? He doesn't know what his teammates want to do next. And even if he doesn't know how to, like, dismark the opponent. Like, the opponents catch up because he's thinking. So I think that's very illuminating that he has so many touches in the penalty box despite averaging a career low in touches. And I think that speaks to how it's more of a just a final third cohesion problem. Like, on the other parts of the pitch, like, going from second to third phase, I actually think he's starting to, like, really test the defense again and again on the right. I like where he is. It's just as soon as it gets to him, the play kind of falls apart. That's my opinion.
I have some eye-opening Mbappe numbers. Do you know who has the most shots in all of Europe this season?
Mbappe. I've seen that.
You've seen that. Okay.
Yeah. He's shooting
36 shots. He also has the most shots on target. And he also has generated 7 XG in 7 games. There's another universe where his finishing is better, and we're having a totally different conversation.
So the only thing I'd say with that is I put some of this on the Managing Madrid Twitter recently, where his quality per chance is a little down, and
it's high volume.
It is, and I would say there are two comparisons to Cristiano I want to bring up because they really illuminate where this could go. Firstly, Ronaldo's first season at Real Madrid. This is starting to remind me of that. Maybe we don't get like 95 points, and we're not going up against Pep's Barca. So in that sense, that team was maybe higher floor, but also they got eliminated in the Champions League early. But regardless, my point is that team, Ronaldo, it's well known that every year at Real Madrid after his first, he cut down on his long shots. he cut down on his shot volume, and his chance quality went up, and his goals got better and better. I think first season he only scored 30 or something. That was his worst by far at Real Madrid, and it's because he was just snatching at shots a lot. Again, that team was better, I think, than this team. I think they were more cohesive, and they just had a more difficult opponent. But regardless, like, this reminds me a bit of that, where maybe the first season isn't ideal and he builds on it. Two is Cristiano at Juventus when he started there. Also the same thing. He was putting up the same XG as Real Madrid. The first month of the season, he was going crazy. Obviously, he dipped from there. But the same issue was there. The same XG, but with 2 more shots per game is not the same goal probability because your chance quality is lower. Like 2.5 XG chances are higher than 10.1 XG chances. And Mbappe is essentially given up some quality for quantity. He's snatching at shots because, he wants to get on the score sheet. But I think that actually is the most misleading stat. The quality needs to go up a lot. And I think it's just inefficiency right now. We're getting into the final third a lot, and we're taking bad shots or getting blocked.
So let's move on to the next super chat, which is from hold on.
Well, I guess Kian just got checked out. Let me make sure I get him back in. But yeah, and just going back through the numbers, I guess I was a little wrong on Ronaldo. So Ronaldo was at 1.14 goals and assists per 90. He just didn't play as much because he got injured. So actually him per 90 was the same as the other years. That is actually a ridiculous stat. I don't have the XG, but I do know from, I guess, other people who have had access to XG over the years. They essentially have the other people who've looked at XG over the years have said Ronaldo's first season was when he took the worst shots. So looking at goal and shot creation, sorry, let me look at his shooting if they have it on Football Reference. They do. He took his shots on target 2009 3.37. He had more shots on target. He actually put less in the next 2 years, 2.91 in 25, 2010-11, 2.96 in 2011-12, back up to 3.77, 12-13. So I guess I was wrong about Ronaldo. His first season, he mostly just hit long shots. I was just admitting I was actually wrong. Cristiano's first season, he just played less games, but actually his goal output, even though he took more long shots and slightly worse shot diet, was still there. But Mbappe, we know, is not Cristiano. He's not like Bale even. Like, he doesn't shoot those types of shots. He's a great shooter, but he needs to be closer to goal. So that's where I think it's important to have cohesion. Where we're going to go.
So with next super chat, we're going to do Anchor Giotti says Sergio Ramos emergency signing incoming ? It's not happening.
Yeah. It seems like that ship has completely sailed between him and the club for now, as player at least.
Mr. Sushi says reports saying Pino is angry. They are mates. Yeah, I'm sure that he feels horrible about it. Unfortunately, it's a shitty situation. Zaid Aldabar says Kama Mbappe connection will be legendary, both at club and country. We're witnessing the start of a special thing. Enjoy the ride, Madrid says. I love the optimism. Gio also says Vinicius is injured too. Yeah, Vinicius had the shoulder neck thing. Carlos said after the game that he's in pain. He's going to do tests tonight, actually. And something about his neck being blocked. Like, you could see, like, he was kind of like going like this when he was walking off.
I'm celebrating because I think he's going to miss the international break and then just play for us. So I'm a little happy. Just don't play for Brazil. Forget the international teams. I don't want any of these guys playing for their national teams anymore until we win another Champions League.
That's another great optimistic look. Hopefully it's like a very, very minor injury that is not serious, but just enough for him to miss international break. I'll co-sign. Sorry to all the Brazilians listening to this who are mad about that statement, but yeah, that would be a good optimistic outlook. All right, so we're 50 minutes in, Sid. I don't want to prolong this too much. Did you have any extra notes that you wanted to share?
No, I think we covered it. Just I thought we were good in the first two phases. I think today our penalty box and final third entries were better. Obviously considering the game state that we were up, but I thought overall it was better. But I was concerned that we had to have the fullbacks overlap, and it's going to be the same problem as Vasquez has to do this role. Like, he's 33, you can't have him do this role. So the role is concerning, and I think the cohesion in the box needs to be better. That's all.
I have a couple things. I'd like to make a plea to ESPN FC. Stuart Robson, I'm begging you, man. I'm begging you. Look, we love you guys. I know Rob Palmer. I know you listen to this podcast. Derek Ray, I know you listen to this podcast. Kay Murray, I know you listen to this podcast. Please pass this message to Stuart Robson from us with the utmost love and care. We love you all. Please tell Stuart, what are you talking about? Bellingham hasn't been good since Christmas of last year. Bellingham doesn't work hard, just like Mbappe doesn't. What? What are you talking about, Stuart? Bellingham doesn't work hard. He's literally the. If you look up hard work in the dictionary, it actually says, if you go look it up, Wikipedia, search hard work. There's a big picture of Bellingham, and underneath it says works too hard. Please work hard. Please work less hard. That's what it says under his in the dictionary. If you look up hard work, and Bellingham will come up with that exact caption. Stuart, we love you. ESPN FC, we love you. Please, Kay, Rob, Derek, pass this message to Stuart. Stuart, Bellingham's fine.
I second that, and I would just say, you might want to like it's these fans at Real Madrid. If you don't watch enough minutes, they will pounce on you, and they were really angry. Like, a lot of them were very upset. I haven't seen that upset a reaction at the commentary in ever. I've never seen it ever. So just passing that along. I've never ever seen that many fans angry, and it wasn't like the Man United angry where you make fun of a trash team and it hurts their feelings. This was like just a lot of misinformation. It almost felt like is what a lot of the fans felt like, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really talk about Bellingham's performance, but touches out of pressure as usual were fantastic. I actually think against Lille he was very poor. The only thing he had going for him in that Lille game was effort. But from a football standpoint, what he was doing with the ball at his feet was one of his more poor games this season, probably his worst game. This game was a little bit better. It wasn't quite Jude, but some of his turns under pressure are just ridiculous still. And he's having he had that one slide challenge on Cardona in the box, clean as hell, clean as a whistle.
Great turns, still essential to our offense because he's the only one who can head the ball in our front six at the moment. And lastly, did you see the thing about his shoulder strap and the surgery? Did you see the news?
Recent news or?
Yes, it came out from Guillermo Rai. I'll pull it up because I think it's pretty big. Basically, I got to find it, but basically Guillermo Rai wrote an article and he has to wear a shoulder strap. And so at the start of the season, he realized the strap is affecting him and he asked the team, I don't want to wear it. And he re-injured, and I think Espanyol onwards, or he re-injured it against Espanyol. And so the club told him to wear it. It actually impacts his mobility a lot, his ability to jump.
Yeah.
And it's back on now, and actually that kind of checks out. Yeah. And seems
I didn't know that part. I know that when he has a shoulder strap on, it impacts his mobility a lot.
But it's back on after Espanyol, and apparently he still needs surgery, which is yeah, I mean, there's no window in the calendar anymore with the new Club World Cup coming in. There's literally no time, but at some point they're gonna have to make a business decision on him.
I have an idea. Fuck the Club World Cup.
I do too.
Need to play that shit. Just do. I mean, it's gonna be really hard to find the window in this season because it's gonna be every game is so important now, and it's just gonna get harder and harder as the season wears on. But I would say as soon as the season ends, just do it then. And who cares? Whatever you miss in the summertime with the Club World Cup, and if it trickles into the beginning of next season, so be it. But it's going to be hard to find that window this season. It's going to be hard. And I had been thinking a lot about it this summer a lot because when I was talking to the club about it, they felt that he needs it, but he doesn't really need it, and so they were just kind of taking their time with it, because if they decide to do it, it's a big thing, right? Like, you're missing a lot of time. And so they were leaning towards not doing it. But now it's like this skier report, and I'm reading it now, I have it open. If he does need it, then it's going to be hard to do that during the season. And I would say throw the Club World Cup. Who cares? Just doesn't matter.
For sure. And for members, Matt and I are going to do an episode on our injury crisis, but not just now. We're going to go back 20 years, talk about the old Galacticos, Ronaldo, the new culture he brought, Jesus Olmo, and the little petty fights he had with all the players, DuPont, the problems the players had with him, Pintus. We're going to go over it all. There's clearly a problem at this club with the knee injuries, and we're going to dive in for members only this week.
For members only, if you guys want access to that, and we're doing so much members only content, and it's insane. After the day after every game, Lucas and I also do a members only podcast, and that is kind of like El Dia Después. We do a deep dive on the game, kind of like with a less emotional, more like analytical lens at times, and just some more fresh ideas. We also do a mailbag for members once a week. Matt and I also do a big picture podcast once a week. Last night, you can see here, when will Real Madrid turn all this around? That was basically a deep dive, 47 minutes on the Lille game. After watching some more film on that game, you can see everything you're missing if you're not a member. If you're on YouTube and you don't have Patreon in your country, just hit join underneath this video. What was Mark Statspot saying?
I literally was going to ask you if you want to guess the XG. Guess the XG.
For us?
Yeah.
1.6.
Wow, that's so optimistic. Did you not see we created? You really going to criticize how we create nothing all game and be like 1.6? Not 0.4.
0.4?
It says
I factored in the Mbappe breakaway in the first half. Oh, but I guess that wasn't a shot. That's why it doesn't count.
It wasn't a shot, so it doesn't count.
That's why. Yeah.
So that's where our field tilt was good, and that's where I think it's so nuanced. You have to look at all the stats. I thought we actually penetrated the box well, but Villarreal 1.39 XG, most of it from one late chance which didn't go in. So but they created the two big chances, and we didn't create any big chances. So yeah, just something to put out there. And I guess let me just see Luka Modric, 89 passes, 77 completed. Best progressor on the pitch. I think
Modric was good.
Yeah,
I like Modric.
Let's see. Yeah, Modric was the number one increased chances of scoring and passing. The next 3 or 4 were all Villarreal players before Carvajal and then Bellingham. Our playmakers weren't the best. But I thought as a team we progressed it again till the final third. And then as a receiver, Jude and Mbappe were our 2 best receivers, and Carvajal as well, and Rudiger, strangely. But yeah, those were the stats.
By the way, shout out to Militao with a strong cameo off the bench. His very first touch of the game was a defensive intervention. It was an interception. He read the play really well, and then had an important clearance later where Mendy got cooked on the wing. So Militao, strong showing off the bench. Also want to give a shout out to the most comfortable long black sleeve shirt I've ever worn in my life. I'm a sucker for long black sleeve shirt. That's my favorite kind of shirt. This is the new Managing Madrid black long sleeve. You can hit the link in the show notes and get Managing Madrid hoodies and shirts. And this one we just launched. And this is the Hey Jude one, designed by Finn. We're not going to be selling this one for long. So that's that. These ones, the Managing Madrid ones, are permanent. This one is not a permanent item. So if you want to cop that, you don't have much time to do that.
Last thing I just add is someone asked, how is Vinny not and there's another super chat anyways, but how is Vinny not MVP? He cooked today. Someone commented because he didn't.
Who got the MVP?
I don't know who won it, but I think they were asking in relation to all the stats, like the passing receptions.
Well, yeah.
I assume that's what they were asking about. And ultimately, he cooked one-on-one, but he didn't. Today, at least, he's been a great playmaker this season. Today, none of his passes came off really.
But that Mark Statspot, he doesn't. That's not MVP mode. That's just the best ball progressor, is it not?
Yeah. And I feel that's the question, because he cooked so many times. Why did he not have high stats? It's because once he cooked the fullback, the passes didn't end up anywhere. One, and partly because our offensive structure is lacking. We don't have a striker, so
right.
But 2. When he received it, also he didn't receive it like behind the line or in dangerous areas. He received it just kind of like outside the block, and he just ripped through the defenders. So that's why he didn't show up as crazy high in passing and receiving. I think you could argue he's MVP. Fede is also up there because he's the one who scored the first goal for us. And please, for the love of God, stay healthy. He's literally played every game for so long. For what it's worth, the last thing is people were saying, like, with Camavinga playing this well, the problem is now Carvajal's gone. So Chouameni's going to have to put minutes in defense. But the Chouameni Camavinga double pivot is a great way to rotate Fede. And I hope that we get to see that just to rotate Fede at some point. I think that might be very viable, considering those two play well together in the double pivot.
Yeah. I thought Vinny was great. Fede was a great shot. We didn't talk about Vinny's goal, which was insane.
Yeah.
I have no commentary on it other than what a strike.
He's starting to just do these, like, since Girona, where he just scores bangers, like, since February. He'll just pull these out in a Champions League game out of nowhere tonight. It's very Ronaldo-esque, and I love it.
Yeah. Zeppelin says, it's been a while since Mehedi has made an appearance on the pod. We miss our fellow pessimist Madridista. Hey, you can just go to his Twitter account and get all the pessimism you need. It's free. No, for sure. Mehedi will be on soon. He also has been covering a lot of written stuff for Managing Madrid. So just go to the website. He usually puts out some of the analytics and the visuals after each game. Hopefully by the time you guys are awake tomorrow, that'll be on the website. I don't have anything else, brother.
No, that's all. Looking forward to the coming games. It's going to be, it's going to be touch and go like this. We're going to need some bangers from our players to buy us time to build cohesion. I feel like that's what today was. Like, even if first 2/3 were good, that performance gets punished. For what it's worth, Villarreal is a good team. They're one of the highest expected points in La Liga. This wasn't supposed to be an easy game.
But yeah, there's that actually, I mean, just to make it quick, we didn't really talk about Villarreal that much. And I think if Carvajal didn't have that horrific injury, we would have had more time to talk about that side of it. The Villarreal Barcelona game from earlier this season was one of the most entertaining games I've seen in the last, let's just put it this season. Let's talk about this season. It was probably the most entertaining game I've seen this season. And it was just two teams who did not play defense and just attacked each other in transition. So I was expecting more of an open game based on that. Now, maybe it was because they were at home and they were more daring, but against us, they didn't really show much of that. And it was a little bit more, they went into a compact mid-block. I actually thought defensively we were fine apart from our pressing. And also just our wing backs getting cooked on a couple occasions. Two of their big chances actually came when one was Carvajal gets dispossessed by Nicolas Pepe, who absolutely tore through Barca. So that's a player I had actually circled as a problem for us, and he was a problem in the first half. But yeah, it was in a good way for us results-wise. It was pretty boring, where I was expecting it to be a little bit more high octane and open, which it wasn't, and it was fine because we won.
Yeah, and I mean, people are going to hate it, but our players are capable of doing this until Carlo figures a lineup out that builds cohesion. So that's why the season will always have hope, or at least for now, we still have hope. There's obviously some people who want to give him time, but a lot of people don't feel like he deserves that time, or feel like they just feel like upset. And the reality is our players are good enough. Like we saw with Camavinga today, why at least for me, it was proof of why we have to be patient with the injuries. Because when everyone's out there, and I guess Carvajal's gone now, but when everyone else is out there, it's still a stacked team. Like these players are so good. Like those goals today were ridiculous. Like oh no, Mbappe is not firing. Let Fede and Vinicius score like two impossible goals. Like that's the sort of team we have. So there's still hope. It's I will be watching but I'll be watching the next few weeks very closely. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, look, I don't want to repeat it, but Matt and I had a big conversation about why this will improve for our members yesterday. And it wasn't like a definitive, this is going to get better, but there are plenty of reasons why this will get better. So if you're interested in that conversation, go listen to that. Awesome. Mehedi, I'm reading the super chat. Sid, thank you for joining us from Mars, man. And we will be back tomorrow for a ton more content for our members. See you there. See you on the inside. Peace out. Thank you, Sid.